What's up, Digilogue fam? It's your boy Drew. Happy Sunday, happy Mother's Day. Just want to say thank you guys and everyone for all the support. We know it's a challenging time while everyone's dealing with this pandemic. As you know, we're here for resources, we're here for content, and we're here to support all our music creatives across the world. So super thankful for all the support that you guys have given us these past 8 weeks. It's crazy to say, but it's been, 8 weeks since we've, you know, this thing really started. More importantly, we just, want to wish you guys to be safe and, staying creative at home. So more content to come. We're super excited today because I have one of my good friends, former colleagues, one of the homies, Jaclyn Soto. Jaclyn, what up?
Drew!
What's going on?
Hello, sir.
How are you? Before we start
great.
anything, how has your quarantine been? How's your family? How are your friends? Everyone good?
Everyone's good. We had a little scare in our family, but everything's good now. As far as me, I live alone, so it's been I've been actually really good. I love being alone, but I think I'm finally settled now.
Sure.
I'm good now. I feel like I have a routine with work, and then after work, I'm like, I have my certain things that I can get into after I'm done working. So it's been cool. Like I'm good. I'm good.
That's great to hear. I mean, I think it's super important. Obviously, we've checked in, but just to check in with people, because I think working from home, if you're also living alone, can be challenging. But it's great to hear that you're in great spirits. So just for context, so Jaclyn and I used to work together at Def Jam. Jaclyn, I call her Jackie. She's senior director of marketing. We worked on some great projects together. Amir Obey, right? We did a little bit with Carson Leaders. And yeah, it was fun working at Def Jam. Like, I think the whole crew, I miss Leslie, Justin, everybody. I felt like it was like a college dorm in the little pocket of the marketing department. But yeah, I just remember a lot of great, times and laughs when, we would always kind of work late together. Leaving the office at like 10 p.m.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. It's like college.
Yeah, college.
It's like we were all working on different projects, but we all supported each other, procrastinated together, laughed, joked, and complained together. That's a good comparison. It's like a college community.
College community. It was definitely, I felt like a co-ed dorm.
Def Jam University.
Def Jam University, that's what it was. We had like Ashley on one side, like, it was like Alex over here.
We were all row. It was a whole row. Like we had that whole corner.
Whole row. And
times.
Great times, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know, you're a big part as to like why I decided to stay at Def Jam at the time before. I think it was, I'd been consulting for roughly around 6 months, and I had an offer on the table, but part of me didn't feel right. And then I remember coming to your desk, and I was like, I need to talk to you. I need to get your insight on this. And you're like, yo, follow your gut. If this doesn't feel right, talk to JD and make it happen. And then I did.
Yeah. It didn't feel right for me neither. I was like, it's not time for you to go yet.
Yeah.
It's not time. I mean, that would have been a big loss for us. So I was really pushing to make sure that, you did what you made that decision and you were happy with the decision you were made, and you weren't going to regret doing something without really just vetting out your options and really asking the questions, or really pushing to tell someone like, I actually really want to be here. I don't want to go,
Right.
And I think I was in that position, so I know how that feels.
Yeah, no, you're definitely a big part in, really pushing me forward to make that decision. But for the audience, obviously I know Jackie, but she's a juggernaut in the building. She works for some big acts. Every big act that's been crushing over the past 2-3 years, from YG, 2 Chainz, Janae Eiko, just like crushing. And now, you're also working on a project for Big Sean that's coming up. So every big tier artist, Jackie has been definitely leading the marketing. So shout out to you. So
Thank
maybe
you.
talk about your role at Def Jam, like some of the things you do, so we can give some background to the Digilogue community and anyone that's watching this.
Yeah, so my role is I'm a project manager or product manager. Same difference. I drive the project. I'm in a marketing department. My biggest goal is to bring the artist's vision to life. Once the music is in-house, we sit with the artists and we work with artists and management on a day-to-day to really tell the story of these projects that these artists put together, and put together these great campaigns to connect with artist fans, and to further and build new fans and bring in new fans. So yeah, behind just putting a marketing plan together, there's a million other things that takes place as far as really rallying the company to get behind the project and to contribute. I work directly with every department in the label, digital, which you and I work together on, press, radio, D2C, which means direct to consumer, which is the artist merch element to that. We work with production, we work with legal. It's a lot. And there's a million departments that are a part, and there's a lot of people behind putting music out into the marketplace. And yeah, my goal is to get the messaging out to the company, work with every department on a day-to-day to keep everyone updated on what's going on in the progress, and making sure that we're all coming together and aligning on the messaging for our projects, which is really important. So yeah, my position is I work directly with artists to bring these visions to life. So it's a lot. We have 20 jobs, one person. I deal with budgeting and a lot of other stuff too. So we're pretty much the managers on the label side. But yeah, I love it. It's crazy. It's a lot, but I love it. And I'm probably missing a lot of other things that we do, but I think I've summed it up in a nice little package.
I think you said it. You simply put it. You said that you bring the artist vision to life. And just in terms of sports analogies, I feel like you're the quarterback. Like you drive. We're driving for the touchdown, and you have to coordinate with every department, right? In sync, and get everyone in sync, which is a task in itself. We know this. We're dealing with the artists.
You sat in those rooms with me.
Yes. We sat in the war rooms together, in the conference room. So I give so much credit to all the product managers, just because you're the driving force to get this project, this album, this single, this rollout just off the ground, and dealing with the multiple personalities, multiple types of people. So credit to you guys. But yeah, and then also too, you're also a Digilogue alum. You've spoken at one of our offline meetups almost like a year and a half ago. You've supported us on multiple occasions, coming out when Leslie was featured, most recently Ashley, and super appreciative of all the support, and obviously also telling all your friends to come out, which is huge.
I was in the summit. I was going to be a part of the big summit.
Yeah, Digilogue Day, which is still on the table.
Day, yes.
We're still on the table, but before we go into like what you do now, we went in more of an overview. How did you, what were some of your early inspirations into music? Like, where are you from? I know where you're from, but give some background to your like upbringing and, you know, how you got started in music.
Yeah. So I am from South Jamaica, Queens.
Queen.
Very, very proud of where I'm from. um, a lot of my early music inspiration came from my family. Like my mom worked midnights, and you know, throughout the weekends is when all the family was home together, and we really got to spend time together. So my mom every weekend would always blast music in the house, clean, just open up the house, the windows, the doors, and it was just, that was a thing growing up. My sisters were huge music junkies. My older sister went to every concert. She used to save her tickets, the photo boothing, like that was just her lifestyle.
Right.
So I've always watched my sister. I think I've outside of that, I have also a middle sister as well, who's also huge on just music, the Hot 97, Ed Lover, Dr. Dre. Like I grew up just listening to the radio and just admiring that, and then just MTV. It was a whole thing for me. And my siblings were huge. We were very proud of just any music that came out of Queens. So just growing up listening to Nas, Lost Boys, Tribe Called Quest. My sister loved Mary J. Blige. Like, I mean, the list goes on. So that was my thing. My mom was huge in Motown. So I grew up loving music. As a teenager, though, I got into nonprofit work. I worked in a sexual health education space, just more so like mental health for teens. I started very young, and I got really connected and involved in that. And I was working within my community, and I was very passionate about that. So I spent a lot of my teen years giving back to my community. And yeah, I actually, when it was time to go away to school, my first year of college, I actually went to school for fashion merchandising.
Really?
Fashion marketing.
Where at?
City Tech University.
Okay.
City Tech. Was it called university?
City
it was
Tech.
City Tech. It was a CUNY school. So
City
I don't know if that's, City Tech. It was City Tech in Brooklyn. I went to school for fashion marketing. My perception of fashion was all screwed up. I was a sneakerhead. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know, like I know fashion. Like I had every sneakers. I had I was wearing expensive jeans. Like that was like, my perception was all screwed up. So basically I was in like a 2-year program. And then normally after that program, you transfer to FIT to complete the 4-year program, which would have been I think I would have completed a fashion merchandising degree.
Oh, wow.
Man, so because it was a associate's degree, the first 2 years, my first year I was already learning textiles and all these things, fabrics. And I was like, okay, this is not it. Like, I'm good on this. So, you know, my family pushed me to go away. And yeah, I applied for a lot of schools across the country for fashion merchandising. And there was only one school that I applied for general marketing, which was Temple University. Never been to Philadelphia in my life. So I got accepted to Temple. There was other schools I got accepted to, but that was the school that was closest to home.
Right.
And I realized I actually didn't want to be too far away. So my first day in Philly was my sister dropping me off. My family, my mom and my sister dropping me off to school. And
North Philly.
That's Philly's my second home. That's where like literally everything took off. So how I got into music, because my whole idea was I was going to go to school for marketing, just understand how to market, promote, engage, and all that stuff, just understanding just business, because it's a business degree. Yeah. So then I could come back and go back into nonprofit, start my own nonprofit. That was my whole idea. And at that point, I still didn't know what any of that meant. I just knew that I had the opportunity to go to college. My family's pushing me to go. Let me just knock it out. So, I went to Temple University. They had a homecoming concert. It was
Owls. Was it Owls? It's the Owls?
The Temple Owls.
Owls.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes. So it was crazy. The homecoming concert was Nas. So I was super hyped. I was so hyped.
Yeah.
I definitely had a ticket. Yeah, so I was waiting in line to get into the concert, and there was these guys on the line handing out Fader magazines, and it had Nas on the cover. So I was like, oh shoot, like I want to hand out a Nas magazine. So I asked the guys, I was like, you know, what do you guys do? Do you work at Temple? Like, what is it? And they told me where they worked at. They work for Cornerstone Promotions. And I was just like, this is cool. Like, I didn't really process that if they work for Nas or not.
Right.
I was just like, I want to hand out Nas shit. Like, so, yeah, I asked them like how to apply. And they were like, yeah, you know, you got to do this and that. And I was like, I'm from New York. I used to hand out condoms in New York. Like, I can do this.
I can hand on anything.
He was like, I like your energy. He gave me his email address. I emailed him.
Yeah.
And then he gave me a link to apply. And then I actually started working for Cornerstone doing, at that time they were called farm reps, which is basically just, they were marketing reps. And Cornerstone Promotion was a marketing agency. They did marketing for artists and brands. So yeah, like during my first interview, they asked me to research like pretty much 50 places in Philadelphia, like music stores, lifestyle stores. I had to learn Philadelphia. And I was like, I want to do this. I don't have a job. I've been working since I was 14 years old. So me moving to a whole new place and not working, at that point, I used to lifeguard. That was my thing. I've lifeguarded all through my entire years as a teenager, as well as doing nonprofit work, which I was paid for. Right. So, yeah, like going to Philly, I applied for like a lifeguarding job, but I had to be up every morning at like 5 a.m. because was it ROTC, the Army? The
Army thing, right?
I had to be up early in the morning for them to practice in the pool.
Oh my God.
They had to do like drills and stuff with like weights and dropping in 12 feet. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't be waking up this early. But, you know, I had to, I just was used to just making money. And I'm like, my mom's paying for college out of pocket.
Right.
I need to be bringing in some type of money. So, yeah, like the Cornerstone team, they challenged me, like, you have to come up with all these things. I submitted it.
I love that.
I was ready to go. Like, I had to learn Philly immediately. And I moved around. And from there, I was going hard with Cornerstone. I think one of my funnest I worked Kid Cudi, Man on the Moon. It was crazy. God. Like 2009? That was a big project for me too. That was a big project.
Was that 2009 or 2010?
That was it 8 or 9?
It might be 8 or 9. Yeah.
It was, because I started at Cornerstone 2008.
Yeah, it was like.
So it's probably maybe 2009. No, I think it was 2008.
Yeah,
I'm bad with years. I don't know.
Because I remember Pursuit of Happiness was like taking off, and Day and Night were like two big records.
Day and Night was our record.
Yeah, that was a big record.
Yeah, like, so that was a that was a big project for me. But yeah, like I was hustling with Cornerstone. I worked a lot with the music stores. And there was a guy that worked at Def Jam that worked in one of the music stores called Phenomenal Records. That's like my home record store. Like I was in that store every day. And it was crazy because the owner of the store, his name was Jay. He was always like, yo, you be hustling. You be here on every weekend. Like he says, you here multiple times a week. Like, and I was just like, I'm out here because Cornerstone was based on projects. So every project you picked up was a different check. So I was picking up every project I could pick up. Yeah, and there was a guy in there who worked for Def Jam. At that time, they had regional reps. So at that time, they had a rep from every label in every market. So you had a rep from every label in Philly, Jersey, DC, New York. Like that was the whole United States.
Right.
He was saying like, you know, Universal Music Group is looking for college reps. They've been trying to fill this position for over a year now. And I was just like, okay, I gave him my resume. And I didn't really hear too much for like a few months. His name was Bear One. He was a producer as well in Philly. Okay. Shout out to him. And then, like finally, I think somebody reached out. I don't know what happened. I had to go to, I didn't even, it's crazy because I actually didn't really apply. I just gave my resume. Because, and I interviewed and they immediately hired me.
Oh,
so
it was like, no, it was just like you interviewed and then that was it.
They interviewed me. I think I had a follow-up interview and that was it. Like one other person wanted to speak to me. So I never really applied. I was supposed to like apply. So they told me just go on the website and just upload your resume. You don't have to fill out anything. And I was hired. And then from there, that's literally where everything just took off. Like at that time, the music industry transitioned. So they laid off all the regional reps and all the marketplaces. So I wasn't like a normal college rep because at that point, I didn't have anyone in the marketplace from the label to guide me. And I was hired, when I was hired as a college rep, it was UMG, the whole umbrella. So
gotcha.
I was literally working all genres of music, hip hop, pop, rock, metal, classical, jazz, everything across the board.
Right.
So yeah, it was new for me. I was working for a corporate company. I was getting paid weekly. It was like a whole new thing. Like they paid for my transportation and all this. I was like, wow, like so it was different. And then I mean, I was also challenged because at that point, my first artist that I had direct contact with was Melanie Fiona. She was coming into the marketplace.
Okay.
Yeah, and they laid everyone off. So I had to figure out stuff for her to do, set up interviewing, all these things. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, so I did like an in-store with her, Phenomenal Records. Like at that point I was like, all right, I need to utilize my relationships in Philly because this shit is real now. Like I actually have physical artists to move around.
Right.
Before I was just setting up listening events and doing things like that to help market the music and to create awareness in the marketplace.
Right.
But at this point, it was like, I have the physical person with me and moving them around.
Right.
It was crazy. So, from there.
Hold that thought real quick. So I think there's a lot of gems there. So really going back for a second. So it's funny how Queen's Nas inspired you to take this cornerstone job.
Yeah.
You're obviously your fandom for Nas and your appreciation for his music, and then Cornerstone, building the relationships within the Philly area, right, with Phenomenal Records and understanding the Philly market, also prepared you for this opportunity with UMG,
right?
You know, to get to that point, because if you skip that step, you know, I'm probably that's the reason why they hired you. They're like, oh, this person is experienced, like she knows this market. And then immediately, to your point, having those relationships, you were able to plug her into like in-store event with Phenomenal and so forth. So to those points, it's like managing those relationships, because you never know when that opportunity will come when you have to.
Exactly. Yeah. And not even music stores, like concert venues, sneaker stores, literally like any little pocket where any lifestyle pocket, coffee shops, cell phone stores, like everything. Like I've literally had events in every type of space in Philadelphia. It's crazy.
That's dope.
And I've worked with all. I look back at certain things and I look at my old email. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to work with this artist. Oh my gosh, I did this. Like outside of that, outside of doing that, I was also involved with the radio station on my campus. I started my own radio show. It was called Pillow Talk, and then it was fun. It was my very close friend from high school who was also at Temple. And then another girl, she was actually from Jersey, but she gave me straight New York vibes. So I was like, she clicked, it worked out. And then we had a board operator who was from Staten Island. It was just perfect. It was like a New York crew. So we just had this R&B show and it was fun. I loved it. And then I eventually transitioned to being a program director for the radio station. So I joined the board and I was more involved in that space. So that opened me up to a lot and more relationships and being more involved, not just on campus with me just doing events, but being involved with participating in organizations on the campus, which I thought was very important. with being present and giving back. And I thought the radio station was a great organization to pair with,
Uh-huh.
especially because I was working at UMG. So any new music or any events or listenings I had to do, I did
Right.
it through the radio station. So it was hosted by the radio station. It was easy. Like,
Love it. Yeah.
yeah. So I did that all through college. And, you know, outside of that, I tested out. So I actually did intern in another industry. I interned at in the pharmaceutical industry for Bayer in their
Okay.
marketing department. And I wanted to try something different.
Mm-hmm.
It was an amazing experience as an internship. They paid very good money. I lived in a hotel for 2 months. I had a rental car. It was great for an internship. I was like, wow, this is top of the line here.
Right.
But it opened me up to a whole new industry. And I wanted to test it out. It was fun because it had this community element to it. In the department that I worked in, they more so figured out, they built programs and
Mm-hmm.
and trainings and things like that, and figured out different ways to market to different communities about these
Right.
drugs, the drug that I was working on, which was cogenate. Who cares? But anyways, it was fun. It was
Look that
different
up.
for me. But me working in that space, I realized like it was cool. The money the money would be great. I would have the opportunity to work from home and travel, which was things that I thought was cool for me at that time.
Right.
And traveling was really important. I was like, I would love to travel, but it was boring. I was used to just being in the streets. I was used to moving around. I was used to the nightlife. I was used to just being on the ground face to face with people, and that corporate space just wasn't for me. So I'm glad I was able to experience that. And I think that's very important when it comes to internships, is really testing out different industries and seeing what really feels right to you and what you can relate to more.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I realized that like music is my comfort.
Mm-hmm.
It's where I'm most excited, where I'm most happy, and where I was blossoming the most. So, yeah, and it's crazy because when I was doing, and I talk about hustling.
Yeah.
I was living in West Orange, New Jersey for that for the pharmaceutical job. They gave me a rental car. I
Interesting.
used to work a 9 to 5. When I got off at 5 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
I used to drive 2.5 hours to Philadelphia to go do
Wow.
events in Philly or go cover concerts and do things in Philly still. I
Crazy.
would drive back home. When those events were over, things in Philly closed at 2 a.m. So, you know, I would try to get out by like 1 a.m., 2-ish, whatever. I
Right.
would drive back to New Jersey to wake up to go back to work at 9 a.m. And I
Wow.
did that the entire summer. I didn't do it every day. I would do it like 3 times a week.
Right.
And then on my weekends, I would go back to Philly, but that I just couldn't let go of that my other internship because I'm like, I don't know if this is something I want to do.
Right.
So yeah, I held on tight to it, and I I had 2 internships at the same time, but I made it work. Lord knows I was tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, I was tired, but I was just like, I was so passionate, so connected to it. I was like, I'm gonna take my Red Bull and drive my ass to Philadelphia
Yeah.
and do these events and do what I need to do. So,
I think that's
yeah,
important to know, just because I think a lot of people, you know, to your point, I think it's important to test different things out, right? Because when you're in college, um, it's there's a lot of pressure to figure out what you're supposed to be doing in your life, and those
right.
answers are not necessarily available there's first or 2 3 years. So we're studying, you know, right? You're studying, but to your point, like, you know, it's how you were able to get that cornerstone job in those
Right.
internships, and now you have this Bayer opportunity which you're testing out too, but you also realize that through that process it's like, okay, this is not something I want to do, even though with all like the amenities and all the things that they offer me, like your heart was with music, you know,
Yeah.
spending those 2 hours to drive from West Orange, New Jersey to like Philly three times a night isn't something that, it's not like money's driving you, it's like the passion for it.
Right.
I think that says a lot about your character, and also like the way that you're always in your personality too, like your confidence. You're just like, this is what I want. This is what I want to do, and I'm gonna do it regardless of like how tired I am.
Yeah.
So that says a lot about your character, and it's definitely translated to what you're doing now. No mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I've had the music industry, the music in Philadelphia is just amazing. Like, and I've had my best times in Philly, and as far as just tapping into the music space and working with cool collectives, and a lot of the people I've collaborated with are in great spaces today, which is amazing. But I've had my best times in Philly. I really did. I've learned a lot. It's taught me a lot. I've met a lot of great people.
Right.
And it's really sculpted me to prepare me for the next step. Wherever it was, I was just like, I get it. I get this space here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna continue to master it and figure it out, but I'm ready for wherever next is, whether it's LA, Chicago, Miami, New York.
Right.
I was ready for it. As scary as it was to transition to a new marketplace, I was just like, when I graduate, wherever the music industry takes me, I'm ready to go, because this is what I want to do at this point. So yeah, I wrote out that internship. It was great for me. I had a really great support system within UMG too. Michael Terry, rest in peace. Huge support of me, always pushed me, always challenged me. There was always these competitions of like the rep to get the most people signed up and all these things, and I used to always win those competitions. Like, I was just a hustle, so
yeah,
it was just, that just pushed me, because it was just, there was rewards, and I'm like, okay, this is working for me. And like, that was, I wouldn't advise anyone to do what I did. Unfortunately, I put this before college.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky enough, I didn't need my grades to get this job. I mean, I had decent grades. I didn't have a 4.0, but my grades are great enough for me to get out of college. I felt hard after the fact, because I was like, Jesus, my mom paid out of pocket for school. But I think my mother was never the type to be like, you need to bring home all A's. She was just more, she wanted to make sure I was happy. And I was passing. I was getting things done so I can get through it, and I can move on to the next part of my life. Right. I graduated. This is, I'm gonna tell you the scariest part, and I want people to not do what I did. I put all my eggs in one basket, and I played myself.
What was that lesson learned?
Like, everyone says is don't put all your eggs in one basket, and I did that, and I left my internship earlier because I was like, okay, I need to get ready, whatever. Like, I'll start applying for jobs, because I knew there was new opportunities. But my manager at that time, it was crazy. He kept asking me like, when's your last day? And I didn't, and I was overthinking it at that time. I'm like, is he trying to fire? Is he ready to hire somebody else? Like, I was just questioning all these things. So I didn't know when was my last day. I didn't know when I was going to move back to New York. I didn't know. I didn't have a job. So I was just like, I don't know. He wanted to know what I was doing before he was leaving, because he was sick. He had cancer. And I didn't know that he was trying to figure that out until later on. But that I was just like, okay, this is my last day. I put in my graduation. Right. So it felt so weird after graduating, not receiving work emails. I was so used to receiving work emails for 4 years at Temple, it was so weird not receiving or being a part of the next project or what was going on. So I was in Philly, like, okay, I don't have shit to do. I
Right.
graduated, like, now what? So at
Yeah.
that point, you know, I had a few conversations and I interviewed for something. I interviewed for a job in LA.
Okay.
And
What was it?
huh?
What was the role?
It was a regional marketing rep
Okay.
for Island Def Jam.
Nice.
And I interviewed for it. I didn't get it. And I was so like, oh shit. I was so confident and I was just like, okay, I got this. And I didn't get it. So at that point, like I was in contact with all the marketing team members from the different labels that I've been working with throughout the years. And, you know, I've had a few interviews and I've applied and I was checking in every few days and things.
Mm-hmm.
It was so scary. It was so scary. Cause I'm like, I'm not used to not working. I'm not used to not knowing what's going on. I'm not used to not receiving a paycheck.
Yeah.
It was like a really crazy space for me. And I was just like shut down. And I'm like, I fucked up. I really messed up. It was crazy. Like a few weeks later, I got a phone call and this woman, Erica Holly, who called me, she was just like, oh, are you back in New York?
Yeah.
And at that point, I was back and forth to New York because I didn't really have nothing to do. I was just like, you know, she asked me that. I moved back to New York. Literally, that weekend, I was back in New York. Like, I moved back to New York within, like, she asked me that day. She was like, when you going to get back? I think I read it early on because I've been in constant. She told me keep in touch. I was keeping in touch with her. And I think at that time, I probably should have been back in New York already. But at that point, I really didn't have no reason to move back. And I had my lease until maybe like September or something. So I was like, I'll stay here for the summer.
Right.
She was like, oh, did you move back yet? I was like, oh my God, I think I'm supposed to be back in New York. I moved back to New York in a day. I called my mother. I packed all my stuff, got a U-Haul truck. I was out. I was out. I wasn't offered a job or anything, but I was like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be in New York. There could be an opportunity for me in New York. I should be in New York. Man, I immediately moved back to New York. I slept in my apartment. Like a week later, she called me and she offered me a job in New York.
Crazy.
And I was like, oh my, I've never like, oh, like that was like I remember exactly where I was. I remember the time of day. I was with my mom. I was literally crossing the street when she called me. And I was just like, oh shit. Like, I didn't even know, like,
so hyped.
I will always remember that day. And later on, as I got into the job and everything, I spoke to her. She told me that she didn't take me for the LA job because she knew the New York position was opening for me. Wow. She was just waiting for it to open. And, you know, she didn't want to move me across the country. She thought it made sense for me to be closer to home, to be home. And my counterpart, when we were both college reps, Norvay Denton, who's SVP at A&R at Warner now, wow. He was, me and him were college reps together, so we came up together. That's my brother. He got the LA job, and I got the New York job. So we were partnered. We were in the same team. We both worked for Island Def Jam as regional marketing reps. So I did that. I was covering the Midwest and East Coast, and he covered the West Coast. So it was crazy. Like that was my job out of college. I was able to move back home. I had to learn an even larger region. I had to learn the whole Midwest. It was crazy. But I was excited. I was happy.
Yeah.
I felt more at home because I was able to still work with my peers that I was working with in college. Right. Some of the people I used to report to, as far as the label reps, I was one of them now. So it was like, I know these people already. So it felt great. So it was a really smooth transition for me. And I got to travel all the time. It was amazing. My first two projects when I started was Rick Ross and 2 Chainz.
Wow. Rick Ross and 2 Chainz, where to start?
Yo, they released their albums back to back. It was Rick Ross, and a week later it was 2 Chainz. And then that same time, Nas, I got hired in July. Nas Life is Good came out.
Yes.
And
Good.
also Frank Ocean Channel Orange. So I was working those 2 projects. But as far as like fresh releases, it was 2 Chainz and Rick Ross. So
Wow.
it was crazy. It was crazy.
Wow.
I mean, when I lived in Philly, I worked with Nicki Minaj, Mindless Behavior, Wale.
Mindless behavior. Yep, know them.
Crazy story about Wale.
Wait, there's plenty.
Yo, when I was a college rep, Wale caused a riot on my campus.
Oh,
They were
no.
ready. Philadelphia, Temple University has their own police unit.
Uh-huh.
They were ready to find me. My man's hopped off the tour bus and ran through the campus. That video is still online. He ran through the campus and they all chased him. It was crazy. I got in so much trouble. But I worked with a lot of great artists as a college rep, so it felt good to just kind of be full circle with some of those artists,
right,
and be at the label. But yeah, like I've been there now. I've been working for Def Jam now. This year, July will make 8 years.
Wow! Congratulations!
Thank you.
No, I think it also says a lot about you too. And to your point, you know, even though you didn't get the LA job, you know, I think Erica knew that you were a better fit for the New York kind of Midwest region.
Yeah.
And even as difficult as it was, because that could be painstaking, just because you were used to like working, you didn't have any direction as to like what was next. So for a lot of people that can obviously, you know, definitely affect your confidence, right?
Yeah.
You know,
big time.
how did you feel at the time? You know, were you like upset? Like, how did you like stay positive and stay focused?
I had a great support unit. Randy Thomas was another huge influence in my upbringing in Philadelphia. When they eventually changed the company, he was based in New York, but he covered like a larger region. So I was like, I worked with him and with Philly after a while, and he kind of just gave me a reality check of just the industry. Like, it's okay. Like, opportunity's gonna come. And he always told me about things that were going on. My sister, who's also, she actually graduated college. So she went through those motions. I mean, she's the overachiever in the family. You know, she went to finance and everything, and super smart. She's the middle child. Middle child syndrome is real. She's the overachiever. Like, she just like,
shout out.
She was a huge influence, and just like moving me along. Like, she helped me with updating my resume, tweaking it, and things like that. And she would prepare me for conversations and interviews with people. She was a really great. She helped me from really like hitting rock bottom, like, for sure. You know, but she was also the one like, I told you to do this. I told you so. And of course you don't want to hear that, but you know, I had to suck it up to be like, you're right. And I was like, damn, I really messed up. So I felt horrible. I really did. I was like, I screwed up. I should have networked. I should have I was so committed to this company. I was like, they're going to find an opportunity for me.
Right.
You know, like, I gave them my all, like, and to anyone, just, you should never, regardless of how committed or how passionate you are about something, you should always
have options.
Seek all opportunities. It doesn't hurt to interview in other spaces. It doesn't hurt to have conversations with people. It doesn't hurt to inquire. And yeah, I just didn't know. And I wasn't really listening to my sister. My sister will always tell me, have you applied for jobs? It was always in my ear. And I was just like, no, like, I have these events I have to do next week. I don't have time for this. I just wasn't making time for it. So I was like, shame on me. And it was another part. I was like, you know what? It's my fault. You know, like, maybe I actually should go into something else. But I just had in my head, like, as much as maybe I always had the opportunity to go back into the nonprofit space.
Right.
But I just, it was something in me that was like, nah, I'm going to keep calling. I'm going to keep following up. I'm going to keep having conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to email this person and contact whoever, like anyone's putting me in contact with. Like,
yeah,
there was just something in my gut that was telling me like, this is where you belong. Like, this is where you're supposed to be. So
yes,
it was I've never felt so like low. And so I just felt this is useless. I really did. I was like, I don't have nothing to do.
right,
I don't have a job. All
right.
this, I was working all through college and now I ain't doing shit. Like, goddamn. But yeah.
No, I think it says a lot about, the support system that you had, right? From your sister, really just kind of, helping you with your resume, helping you with your interviews, and kind of reminding you like, hey, this is, even though like you put all your eggs in one basket, this is not the end. But I think to your point too, you also followed your gut and you followed your heart. And to a point, there's also nothing wrong with that. Reason being is because it eventually worked out for you, right? If you gave up and you were like, well, after this interview and finding out I didn't get this job, maybe this is not for me, but in your mind you're like, this is for me, and you just kept being persistent with reaching out to different people within UMG, and then getting that call from Erica. So that also says a lot about you, that regardless of like getting a door closed, you were persistent about it. And that's something that we always tell people, like, one door may close, but you could be like 9 doors may close, but one door will open.
Right.
And persistent about it if you really love what you're focused on, or what that goal is, or what that job is.
Yeah.
So that says a lot about your character. And then again, you also mentioned about some amazing people. So talk about some of the mentors, right? As you're climbing, through the ranks within UMG, and also talk about, being a woman in the music industry. So twofold, like talk about the mentors that were guiding you as you're learning your role, as you're developing your career, and also talk about being a woman in industry, dealing with all the different personalities.
I was actually, I was fortunate enough to have a woman as a manager, which I was very excited about. I come from a family of women. So I have 2 older sisters and my mom, who's like my superhero. That alone was just like exciting for me. Like, I felt like it was going to be easier for me to connect with her. And she was my work mom. Like, she took me under her wing and she literally taught me everything that I needed to know to move along. Like, and even when I tripped up or something went wrong, like, she was there to be like, all good, but this is what, she was an amazing teacher.
Yeah.
So it was great. And she also introduced me to a lot of other women in the industry as well. Lisa Brunson. Lisa Brunson. Yeah, she introduced me immediately to Lisa Brunson. And I also met Jen Hirsch. That was another person I met early on. So she introduced me to a lot of the women in the company who kind of just, wrapped their arm around me if I ever needed anything, which was great. A lot of my other huge influences, I know Ricardo Spicer, who's my counterpart. He was based in Atlanta. Amazing guy. He's been in the industry for years, and he was an OG.
Right.
Norvay used to call him OG, but me and Norvay were both new to this. So me and Norvay had our styles of how we worked, and we all learned from each other. So it was me, Norvay, and Ricardo. It was a 3-person team. Ricardo had like the whole South. Norvay had the West Coast. I had the Midwest and East Coast. So we were a team under Erica, and we were really tight knit. After Erica, I had Chris Ayers, who was another huge influence for me. And also even Randy Thomas, who was still there when I got hired, huge influence. So there was all these people that I had around me were like, oh, geez. Right. Kevin Lipson, who's now a Republic, was like an amazing guy, amazing energy, a great teacher, the best. He's always the happiest man. He was great also, because he was like the UMG, the head of the distribution in the New York office. So he was great. Like there was a lot of people. I think those few that I mentioned were really great influences. When the company transitioned, when I moved strictly under the Def Jam umbrella, which is pretty much just me, Def Jam paying me, no longer UMG, but I went on to Chris Atlas. And Chris Atlas, I think I was more scared of just going on strictly under the label, because I didn't have that buffer of like UMG, like my UMG protection. Right. I was like literally in these rooms now and everything. And before I used to have to call in, I used to be on the road and working from home. Like it was different for me. But going on to Chris Atlas, I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm good. Like, cause I was already working with Chris Atlas daily on a lot of his projects, and Kiafa, who was another guy who actually interviewed me when I got interviewed after Erica Holly. I had to interview with someone from Def Jam before I got the job, and it was Kiafa. Wow. So it was crazy. Because later on, Kiafa became my boss. Later on, like he became my manager, which is so dope. But yeah, later on in my years, Chris Atlas was a huge influence. He took me under his wing. I learned a lot from Chris Atlas. Just watching him in a room and how he carries himself, he conducts himself, how he just manages a team of people was just so impressive. And he was a dad. Mm-hmm. So just him being a dad at home, he had like those qualities at work too. You know, he was very caring. I just felt at peace, like when Chris was there. Like anything I did, like Chris was involved. He was my manager, you know what I mean? Like I felt protected. He was anything that went wrong, I knew he was going to protect me. He was going to hold me down. If I had a question, sometimes I was so scared to ask certain questions. Don't ever be scared to ask questions. But eventually, when I got the courage to ask certain questions, he was the person I went to ask my questions, and he was just like made you feel good about asking it, because you didn't feel like it was dumb or you were inexperienced for asking it. Like I never got that feeling from him. Chris moved on. Kiafa. Kiafa. Yeah,
Kiafa. He's
I literally like when Kiafa became my new boss, it was like this whole new energy that just came into me. It was like I've always had it in me, and it took me a long way. Like, you know, I'm from Queens. I'm from New York. Like we're just aggressive. New Yorkers are just very aggressive people. Like we know what we want. We know how to move. We know how to talk. Like, you know, I've always had that in me. But I feel like Kiafa just kind of like just pushed, like he just pushed me like a little bit further. Like, no, that is okay to say that. Like, speak up for yourself. You know, like hold your ground.
Right.
Kiafa put that in me, man. Like it was just like this whole new energy. And it was, I started to speak up more. Anything, my opinion that I was kind of like, okay, everyone's debating. Should I say something? Kiafa was the person to be like, Jaclyn, say something. Like he was the one to make me like talk up in conference rooms and stuff. Right. And Kiafa gave me a whole, like I've learned so much from Kiafa. And then Kiafa's just like, he's just another person that just like, he had a very heavy influence on who I am today, for sure. Like he just took me to the next level. Mm-hmm. And I thank him a lot. I learned a lot from him, man. Like just.
That says a lot too about, you know, the importance of mentors, right? And just having, to your point, you talk about all these amazing people. Obviously, we know these people,
Yeah.
but like all these amazing people that gave you the confidence. Um, because confidence is like, you can have the hard skills, like you could be good at marketing, you could be super analytical,
Hmm.
but the soft skills, like when I say soft skills, having to be able to the confidence to like um, tell your ideas with confidence and rebuttal those ideas in a room full of music heavyweights, right? Who have their ideas as well, and to stand your ground is so important, especially as a young music professional,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because those rooms are very intimidating.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We know.
For sure. Yo.
I
People
know.
don't know, like, a, a simple comment. People don't know what goes into releasing a single or an album. There's
Yeah.
a lot of healthy debating, nothing bad. It's always healthy debates. Like, what's right? When's the right timing?
Hmm.
What's, like, it's just so much. But it's just a room of multiple creatives, multiple people who are experienced, and like, we all have our different perspective on things. But I just know what I feel like. I knew my artist, and
Mm.
one of my artists I used to go hard for, which Kiafo was really like,
Let me guess. Can I guess?
go ahead.
Uh, is it an R&B artist?
No, no,
Rapper. Okay.
yeah. Say
I
the
don't.
letter first. Say the letter.
Uh, I was gonna say A.
Oh God, no, we're not gonna go there. Oh wait, A. Oh no, 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 no. If you said A in reference to R&B, that's a whole nother thing. But why?
Oh, Y. Okay. YG.
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 YG. I used to go hard. Like,
Yeah.
YG's craziest ideas. Yo, the naked woman on a jet ski, that video couldn't come out. I'm like, yo, we gonna make this video come out. All these, I'm like, we're gonna figure this out. Like, yo, like, man, like that, I went hard. I used to go hard. And Kiafa used to be right there behind me, like going hard with me, like, get ahead.
Oh,
Crazy, crazy. Me and Kiafa had some crazy stories as far as just like the craziness with artists, and there's a lot we go through as far as just like finalizing things and
mhm.
moving things forward, scheduling and planning a lot. But yeah, outside of that, all those mentors, as far as being a woman, there's a lot of women who are big influence. Mildred, oh man, like Millie and Lisa and Jan, like, and Erica, those women I would go to when I needed somebody to talk to. They were there. They were there. You have, it's being it's great to have other powerful women around you. It
Very
feels great. It's very empowering, and to watch them as executives just shine and do their thing and hustle. Dana Kirk, who's also like
right.
someone that I can like go to and speak to when, I was questioning things, or I felt weird, or it just wasn't right.
Right.
Those, I'm 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 happy, I'm excited, I'm still here.
Mhm.
I'm empowered, and
Yeah.
I had great women behind me to like push me and support me and speak to me.
Mhm.
And I make sure that I give that same energy to anyone else that comes in, because I had an amazing support system. And
That's so
even
important.
when there was times I'm like, damn, like, do I want to, this is, you have those moments where you stress, you working crazy hours, you traveling, all these things. It's like, do I want to do this forever? Or is this like, and sometimes
Right.
you just have to like sit back and just let it all out. And I had those people to let it all out to. So I'm happy for that. I'm as I've I know that I think today
Hmm.
women are shining. Like we're glowing in the entertainment industry, and I love it. I love it. It's opening doors for so many more women.
I've seen
So I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm excited to be in this moment. And just as much as those women were a huge influence on me, I want to be an influence on other women coming up in the industry, because it's a lot. It's a
for sure.
lot. Like the lifestyle's different. It's a different lifestyle. It's not a normal 9 to 5.
Mhm.
It's not a normal corporate job. There's certain things that may be uncomfortable for certain people, that and just as far as just the club life and a million other things that just may be weird or not your norm,
Right.
but it's a part of being in the music industry, and the music industry is not cut out for everyone.
Right.
But I commend all the women who are driving and hustling, and
Yes.
I'm fortunate enough to have these great women who help bring me up in the industry and support me, and yeah.
No, it says a lot. I mean, you have a shirt that says "Empowered Women." Can we see
Yo, you see
that?
this? You
Yeah,
see
that's,
this?
we got shout out. Is there
And
a
you know what?
designer?
And you know what? Let me say something else. Actually, outside of just women in the industry,
Hmm.
my family, my mom was an officer, and she has like my mom was my mother was in the streets of the Bronx. Okay,
Oh wow,
in the Bronx.
crazy.
Like my mother was in the streets. Okay, the
Respect.
sweetest woman in the world. Like my mother always held us down. My mother worked midnights, but
Hmm.
she'll come home in the morning and she stayed up all like she'll take a little nap. But we got home at 2 o'clock. She used to get home like 9 o'clock. She had a few hours to sleep. By then she's homework and cooking. Like, yo, my mother hustled. My mother hustled. My mother got me through college. My mother paid for college out of her pocket. And my mother's always been like, my mother
That's my
always
mom.
supported me, yo. Like,
Mother's Day.
whatever it was, like, she was just like, okay, the music industry, like, that's what you want to do, go ahead, boo. Like, and my sisters, I have 2 sisters. My middle sister who went through college, she was always been a huge advocate and always supported me in everything that I did and got me through a lot.
Mhm.
And then I have an older sister who she's just a hustler. She's an electrician. She does everything. Like she's just like the women in my family is so well rounded. Like we
Yeah.
have my sister that's just a genius. She's just a finance person. My
Right.
other sister, she could build anything, fix anything. She's an electrician. My
Yeah.
mother, who is just like the powerhouse and holds it down to this day. So I can never take that away from them. Like my family's dope. I mean, my dad and my brother, but we talking about women right now. But like
Yeah.
they were also like a huge influence. They support everything I did. Like yeah, like we're super tight knit. Every decision I make, they're involved. Everything, even to like when the artist used to anything. When I first got hired, my mother would come like, "Oh, this artist is," because my mom's watching morning television and
Right.
daytime television. It's like, "Oh, your artist is da da da." I'm like, "Oh yeah, mom." Like,
I love
like
hearing that.
anything in the paper, like she was just like kind of she was getting into the groove of it. I'm like, "Okay, mommy, you get it, you catching on." Because at first I'm like, my parents don't know what I do. I still don't
Trust.
think they know, but it's okay. But
Trust.
yeah.
Trust me. I mean, and I think that's so amazing to hear that your family, particularly like your mom, your sisters, were a big part of your guidance and confidence.
Yeah.
And it's so important, um, not just to have that at work, but also have that at home, you know?
Yeah.
So that's huge.
And I have a niece now, and she's 16 years
Yeah,
old, and I want to be, I have a cool job. It's not a normal job,
true.
and I want to be a great influence for her. I want to, show her that whatever she wants to do, like it's possible, and you can have fun doing it.
One,
So I want to make sure that I continue to be a big influence for her and support her and what she decides. She's going to college soon, so it's
yeah,
like, girl, let's go. But yeah.
prepare for the next generation. No,
Yeah.
that's great to hear. And you know, as you're, like you said, you're getting all this confidence from like Kiafa, Chris Atlas. Maybe you could talk about two things. Talk about maybe that lesson learned, that small L, and then like where you faced adversity, but you were able to bounce back. And also talk about that small win that maybe that you didn't think was insignificant for everyone else, but was big for you. And you're like, that really helped you push through during that time. Was there like a L or like a challenge or some moment of adversity during that time as you're kind of like navigating within Def Jam? You're like, okay, this is hard, but you were able to bounce back. And then
I,
maybe talk about that
I
small win.
had, we're gonna keep it up. We're gonna keep it a buck right now. I'm gonna be
Okay.
straight up with you guys. Only a few people know about this, but there was someone who wasn't, didn't have my best interest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, someone that was encouraging me to actually leave the company and go somewhere else because I'm creative. And they felt that I should go be creative somewhere else. They
Mm.
gave me I felt like we bumped heads a lot. And it was tough for me. They were giving me a very, very hard time. And outside of me getting turned down a few years back when I was trying to get a job,
Right.
that time I literally I was at my lowest point as a full-time employee. I had somebody that wasn't supporting me,
Mm-hmm.
that was making me feel like crap, who was encouraging me to leave the company, who just gave me a really, really hard time, would just embarrass me in front of people, kept me out of meetings. And I felt horrible. And I'm like, yo, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. Like, at that point, I was like, I don't deserve this. And I didn't tell anybody what was going on. I was just dealing with it with that person.
Mm.
And there was one person actually who I forgot to talk about, who really got me through this, because this was such a hard time for me. And I was literally ready to leave.
Mm.
Xavier
Okay.
Jurgens. Jurgens is the same last name, right? You know Xavier. He's at Spotify now.
Yes, yes.
Xavier. Oh my gosh. Like, that man, he's another OG. Yo, I used to go into office every day to just talk about what I was going through and everything. And, like, he used to talk me through a lot. Yo, I was ready to bounce.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, he got me through that. And I ended up eventually like bringing it to my boss at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and fixing the issue. And that person like did a whole 360 at that point. But that was like a really, really, really tough time for me. I've never had any confrontation. I've never had any issues, but this one person just didn't have the best interest in me. I mean, they eventually ended up leaving anyway. So I'm like, thank God I
Right.
didn't leave the company, because this person was leaving anyway. So I would have screwed up so much for myself. But yeah, that was like,
That's very challenging.
I was going through a lot. Like, I used to be there late at night. It was just so much. We could sidebar about all the craziness. I don't want to say too
Yeah,
much, but
for sure.
yeah, it
No,
was horrible. It
I
was
think
horrible, man. I was like, I was depressed. I was literally depressed.
yeah.
And I didn't know how to handle it. But yo, Xavier got me through that. Xavier's the reason why I stayed at Def Jam. I was ready to leave. I was so ready to leave. And at that point, I was having conversations elsewhere. I was like, you know what? I can go here. I can go there. But
Mhm.
my loyalty was to Def Jam. And I'm like, I don't want to leave here.
Right.
Like I'm happy with, I'm excited about all the artists I'm working with. Yo, like that was a low point for me. Um that's answered the question. Did that answer the
Yeah.
question?
It's definitely a really strong point. I think, in a lot of corporate settings, right, you may come across someone that, can be detrimental towards your confidence,
Yep.
um, and doesn't have your best interests. Um, and luckily, you still had a great support system.
Yeah.
Um, and you didn't necessarily leave because of it, but you're able to sustain it and just know that you are going to come across these type of people, but you also have other people in your corner.
Yeah.
To be able to recognize that early, that you're not in it by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Understanding who your allies are,
Yep.
people that will support you as you're dealing with these things internally, in addition to the other stresses of like the deal of just having the job.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're dealing with
Yeah.
the artists, you're
Yep.
dealing with the expectations of the label, you're dealing with everything else, and then you have to deal with this extra BS, right? So,
Yeah. It was crazy,
but you overcame it, and then let's talk about on the brighter things. Like, what was that small win, that first small win, and you're like, wow, I really drove this home, and then I feel like I'm, really solidifying myself as like, in this company. Was it like a release? Was it like um achieving something with when it came to like a music video? Like you talked about YG, it's creative direction.
it's
Um
hmm.
was it getting like a campaign off the ground that was like super
I've
like
had like so many. I've had a lot of like um you before I actually got into the product manager role, I was
mm,
a regional rep, and I think some of my bigger projects, which were huge wins for me, that I was a part of, was the Rihanna 777 tour.
oh,
Uh,
talk about that.
that was like that was a crazy project, and it was great. I mean, a part of my role at that time was sales.
Hmm.
And we did an event at the PlayStation Theater in New York,
Yep.
and we sold over 1,000 units in there. Like that. She met with like 1,000 fans. It was crazy, but to be a part of setting that up was like a big deal for me.
Hmm.
Another big project which I was like super excited about, was a big deal for me, and it made me feel like, damn, I did this. Was Cruel Summer. That
Cruel
project.
Summer. Oh,
I did an in-store in Best Buy, and it was Pusha T there, 2 Chainz, Tiana,
what?
literally everyone. Sci-Hi, the Prince, Common, like literally. The only one I was missing
Music.
was Kanye.
Good
They
music.
were all lined up, all in one room together. Yo, that line, it was pouring raining that day. These fans were soaked. It was over 1,000 people there. It
Crazy.
was crazy. That was a huge win for me. That was a huge win for me. It was a huge event. I set it up, and I was like, damn, this. It worked out. Like, I was just my mom was going crazy. Like, how the hell am I gonna get all these artists in the same room at the same time? But yo, it worked out. It was crazy. So that was a huge win for me as a regional. When I transitioned to a product manager role, I had a lot of exciting projects.
Mhm.
A lot of indie projects that I worked up, not indie, smaller projects that I worked on. I didn't get a lot bigger projects until later on, but I think I worked with so many artists, Jesus. But um, some of my bigger wins, I think just more so just me working with these individuals and um,
Seeing them grow.
being a part. Yeah, like I think one big one for me was Toni Braxton. Like,
Mm. Love Tony.
yeah, like I grew up listening to her. To just be working with her was just like crazy. It
Yeah.
was crazy being in the same room, being on the phone with her, emails, like moving around with her was just like groundbreaking for me. Um, and I learned a lot from her. Working with like a legend and how they operate is so different from just any other artist. Like, I learned a lot. But that was great. I think some other big fun wins for me was I got history with YG. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? When I was in college, my first time interacting with YG was in college. I set up some interviews for him on his tour bus
Oh,
after
really?
his tour. Crazy. This like throwback when Tooted and Booty was popping. Like,
Yeah.
so it's crazy how we went full circle and I ended up working with him at Def Jam. But I had my funnest times with YG. And I think some of my bigger, funner campaigns was the Big Bank record, and
Yes.
Go Local was so much fun working with him. And I mean, it's always great when an artist is excited about something, they participate and they engage, and like, yeah, like YG's one of those guys, like he likes to have fun. So I can definitely say, I mean, even before I was before I was YG's product manager, when I was a regional, I went on the road with YG. My Crazy Life, I did a few markets with him.
Right.
Man, like his show was just My Crazy Life, classic. Classic album. Like that tour was just crazy.
Really
That
album.
tour was crazy, yo. And I had so much fun. Like he has a great team, and yeah, I've ran with YG for a very long time. So those are fun projects. As far as like transitioning to his project manager was a big deal for me.
For sure.
And I had a lot of fun with him. I think that was a huge win for me from starting early on, from setting up interviews on a tour bus to being his project manager. Like, I thought that's definitely like a huge win. Yeah.
No, that's dope. I just, I think, going back, like I said, like all the things that you were doing to get to this point, having the experience with YG and setting up interviews on this tour bus, and then eventually building your role into this product manager in this project, and really just being a big part of his trajectory in his career, right?
Yeah.
I think those are the great moments because of all the amazing relationships that we share with our artists that we work with, especially when it comes to like the marketing and trying to your point earlier, really getting their visions off the ground.
Yeah.
And being their champions in the building is dope. Even when the ideas are so out there.
We make it happen.
We're gonna make it happen.
We make it happen.
And I think that says a lot about you in terms of not only your passion for your music, but also a passion for the artist, and also your loyalty to Def Jam. As we wrap this up, obviously I'm super appreciative of sharing this time on a Sunday, chatting up with one of my good friends, Jaclyn Soto. We always leave off with a lesson learned. We've talked about multiple lessons through your story, but what's one lesson learned? What's another lesson learned that we can share with the Digilogue community, with our audience that's watching this episode right now?
I think I have a few tips. Don't get comfortable.
Facts.
Don't ever get comfortable. Build relationships and maintain them. Always network, always build relationships, be open to meeting new people. You never know when things will come full circle again, and when they may make sense in your life. But I think as far as in this entertainment industry, relationships are very, very important. I think another thing too is just like being consistent. I think consistency is very, very important. And I think another thing too is learn and understand the industry you are interested in pursuing. Become a master in your craft. I'm a constant learner. I'm always asking questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, which at one point I was. And when I started asking more questions, that opened like a whole new gateway for me. So I think that just asking questions and really learning and understanding just the business overall. And doesn't necessarily have to be strictly just what your focus is going to be, but understanding the business as a whole is very, very important.
So true. So true. No, I think those are great lessons. I mean, from having a holistic point of view and
Mm-hmm.
understanding how all the different parts work
Yeah.
is important. So your idea of like, okay, A&Rs do this and marketing does that, but you may just know one thing and doesn't know how the full picture works.
You gotta understand it all, because they all work hand in hand. They
Mhm.
all intertwine with each other. So I think it's very, very important, especially in the music industry. Especially in the music industry. If you go into movies or whatever it is, it's just like you have to understand the business. Like it will take you a lot further. It'll help you really better challenge yourself, set the proper goals,
Right.
and yeah, it will help you. It will help you be a better version of yourself. It will help you challenge yourself, and you'll know how to take it to the next level if you really understand what the next level is.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, that's so important. Jackie, I appreciate you so much for sharing your time on the L's, aka Lessons Learned, episode 10. This was really fun because you're not only a good friend, but also a mentor of mine as well. I learned a lot from you, being at Def Jam. Not only your confidence, but your just like approach to just like getting things done, and not taking no for an answer type of attitude. But shout out to the community. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. Make sure to follow Jackie and her socials. We'll have that in the description. And thank you to everyone tuning in. We got a lot more content coming out. And stay tuned for the next episode of L's. Check
Thank
you
you.
later. Peace.